Good day, everyone. My name is Anthony Reeves, attorney at law, and welcome to another edition of Q&A Social Security Disability Today. Yes, I know you're probably used to me with the t-shirt on, 5 o'clock shadow, but I'm trying to get a little cleaned up around this thing, so at least I may be a little bit better to look at. Go figure. All right. Let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling. First question today was, is my DLI, or what they call date last insured, something I can get from my annual Social Security statement? Now, some of you may notice that pretty much about once a year, you'll get a statement from Social Security that says, if you retire by 62, this is how much you would get. If you retire by 65, this is what you would get. More importantly, for your purposes of disability, if you're found disabled, this is what you would get. Here's what I tell people all the time. If you are wondering when your insurance coverage ends, which is what the date last insured is, don't rely on the form, because I've never really seen it on the form. Not saying it's not there, but I typically don't look for it there. Your smart move is to call your local Social Security office and ask them, what is your date last insured? And they should be able to access one of their screens and tell you that information. This way you know definitively, as opposed to relying on your form, which may or may not be current at the time you actually get it. Because remember, they only usually provide this thing once a year. All right? Now, had someone asked a question, settled a workers' comp case back in 07, basically stopped working in 07. They were injured, but they didn't work for about 4 years because of the fact that they were taking care of their elderly parents. They now want to know, is it too late to file for disability, or did they wait too long? Now, this kind of plays into the part of the date last insured. This is how it works. First and foremost, to find out whether or not you've waited too long, just contact the Social Security office and ask them what your date last insured is. So if you're thinking about applying today in 2011, but you hadn't worked since 2007, they'll be able to tell you if you have insurance coverage through up to now, so you can actually apply in your earnings. That's one of the nice things about the date last insured, because I've had this happen quite a bit. Not like the question that I got here with regards to workers' comp. But imagine the same scenario where, let's assume that individual didn't get hurt, that they actually stopped working because they were taking care of their family members, took a break for about 3 to 4 years, and I've had people who I've represented like that, and then all of a sudden, they decide to go back into the workforce and then get injured right when they're thinking about going into it. Now they have the same problem that you have in this instance, where you've taken a substantial time off and you're not sure if you're still covered for purposes of applying under your earnings. Check your date last insured. The Social Security office should let you know whether or not you still have coverage based on your earnings. Now remember, under Supplemental Security Income Program, it doesn't matter, because that program is based on your financial status, and you can apply for that any time. But if you're trying to basically get disability coverage based on what you've paid into the system, call Social Security first. Find out whether or not you're still covered. And once you do, then you'll know whether you can go ahead and apply. And this is the best thing about it. Because typically, if you paid in those last 10 years, is what I always tell people, you should have coverage that goes out at least up to about 5 years from when you stop working, depending on how your coverage ran. Meaning, if you had 5 good years working, paying in, you should have a window going forward. But when in doubt, call Social Security and specifically say, I need to know what my date last insured is so I can know if I can apply based on my earnings. Now, somebody asked a wonderful question about online classes. They said, my question involves part-time work and online classes while currently receiving the DIB. If a person gets disability benefits and has a disabling condition that limits them to possibly being able to work to a sedentary job only a few hours a day, causing their DIB benefits to cease, could these hours work against them for trial work period? Here's what most people fail to realize. The trial work period is really designed so that you are not going to be penalized for if you are earning up to what we call substantial gainful activity, SGA. So that for the months that you work, that those months aren't going to hit against you. I actually did a video talking about this, and it was important for you to pay attention to this because of the fact Social Security recognizes that you're not going to be out of work forever. You're going to try to get back into the workforce. So If your money that you're making is less than SGA, it may not be a problem for purposes of the trial work period. It might be a problem for purposes of determining whether you're disabled. Here's what I mean. Every 3 to 5 years, Social Security does what we call a continuing disability review. And when they do that review, they're going to look at things like, are you working a part-time job? Are you going to school? Now, keep in mind these things for purposes. Make sure you understand exactly what goes on when you do those things. If you're doing a part-time job once a week because that's all you can physically do, you need to make sure you can articulate that. If you're doing online classes because it is too hard to go into a classroom and you have the ability to go back and watch the videos of presentations being archived. I used to teach online classes, so I know the nice thing is I can teach a class today and you can go back and look at that class later. So if you can only sit for like 20 minutes at a time and you got an hour lecture, you might watch 20 minutes, put it on pause, go lay down for a while, come back and finish it. You got to be prepared to explain how you normally do those things so that the person who is actually reviewing your case can get an appreciation of your circumstances by how you do your part-time job as well as going to school. So I hope that helps. Now, if a DIB recipient was physically unable to attend college, but tried to take 1 or 2 online courses per semester, would that negatively affect the DIB? And that goes back to my original discussion. Make sure you document how you're doing those classes. Because most people don't realize, unlike a traditional college setting where you may have 3 or 4 classes and you may have back to back, and you can kind of go from one class, you walk through the hallways, go to another classes. An online setting is designed to work at your pace. But you've got to make sure that when Social Security is asking you questions about that you are completely clear about how that pace is worked. Meaning, just as I said before, if you're taking classes where you got 2 classes per semester, they're online classes and, you work an hour here, you do something here, you may be able to watch half an hour of a video there, but then you need to take, a couple hours before you can go back and finish. Social Security does not know the conditions by which you actually do your classes. So you need to make sure you explain that to them in detail. All right. Now, also, someone said, do you think online classes would allow disabled individuals the freedom to work at their own pace and would allow the individual to learn new skills? Absolutely. That's one of the perks of online classes is that imagine when we think of classroom environment, we think of going to class, going from walking down the hall, sitting in a class for an hour, getting up, rotating to another. An online environment is ultimately designed to work with individuals who may not necessarily be able to matriculate in a normal classroom setting. So keep that thought in the back of your mind. Now, someone asked, can a long-term disability carrier charge me for more than the total Social Security disability benefits I receive? Is there a way to contest this and who do I contact? People, let me make this abundantly clear, and I think I've talked about this in other presentations as well. If you have a long-term disability policy, in some of the languages of those policies, there typically will have something in there that talks about reimbursement for purposes if you apply for Social Security. And the idea is this. You're getting long-term disability benefits, which is giving you a monthly allotment because you're unable to work. So a lot of times they require you to apply for Social Security and they expect to be reimbursed once you receive it. Well, if you are concerned that, let's say, a situation where the Social Security determines you're disabled, but not for the entire time period, and as a result, the money that you would have gotten that would have covered all the period of long-term disability is substantially less than what the long-term disability policy has, you need to do 2 things. First, you need to read that policy because that's what you signed. And I always tell people whenever they sign this, they get these and they come to me running, doing the high pro glow because they're getting this long-term disability. I said, look at the policy first. Then if you have a problem with the policy, contact your long-term disability carrier. And if that is a problem still, contact your ERISA provider. It's what I call it's ERISA attorney. Because those are usually attorneys that can help you out a whole lot. All right. Got a question also about congestive heart failure. I had a person with a 20% ejection fraction, as well as the fact they have a college degree. They felt like, they're There's medical evidence in my file. Why are they asking me to go to an independent evaluation when they have all my medical records? And what kind of heart case will get approved? Okay. Here's the thing you need to be aware of a couple things. First of all, when Social Security asks for your medical records, they typically will only pay up to $14 for medical records. So unless you actually have seen the file, there's no guarantee that they have everything. That's the first thing. Typically, they do examinations because of the fact that there's additional evidence that they need that they may not have. So keep that thought in the back of your mind as well. Third, heart cases, it just depends. If you have an ejection fraction under 30%, that's going to be fairly substantial. The tough thing in this person's case is you're talking about a 32-year-old person with a college education. So at a bare minimum, Social Security is probably going to presume that you can do at least a sedentary job. That's what's going to hurt you right there. If they think you can do a sit-down job with your education and your work, with your education and your age, it's going to be tough. If you want me to do more definitive discussion about heart conditions, shoot me a message and I'll be more than happy to do so. Same thing with persons who are obese. Every now and then I'll get somebody who has an obesity problem. And in this gentleman's case, he can't really work out because they're telling him to lose weight, but in the catch-22, because of his condition, he can't lose weight. It's kind of one of those things where I tell people to do this. Give it your best effort and make sure you tell the doctor that you've given it your best effort. If the doctor is telling you to lose weight, make sure you tell that doctor you're taking every effort to try to lose weight so that they document it to your file so that it does not look like you're not trying to do so. And this way, it'll help you out a lot. And then finally, somebody asked about making money in terms of a hobby. And I tell you this. If you are working part-time and you're making a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there, and you're reporting it back to Social Security, they may be looking at that to see how you do it. Remember, it's never just the small dollar amount by itself. It's the manner in which you do it, which is more important. Because if it's something that you could do more, Social Security may use that as an opportunity to demonstrate that, you could probably do that with a greater degree to possibly even go back to work. Today was a kind of a wild day. I had about 9 questions. I tried to hit them as quickly as I could. If by some reason you want me to go into more detail, please send me a comment and send me a message saying more detail and then lay out exactly what it is. And then I will do a video especially addressing that in greater detail just for you. My name is Anthony Reeves. And as always, if you have a Q&A, make sure you visit me here at Social Security Disability Today. I'm Anthony Reeves. Have a wonderful day.